Hi everyone, it's Kat. So today I have a video to share with you, and don't mind my fingers, they're all inky because I've been playing with inks all day and labeling my ink pads and things like that, so they're kind of a mess. But we have been talking about black inks in the Stamping Enablers group on Facebook, and which one we like for, you know, which kind of stamping, like for Copics or for watercoloring, that kind of thing. So I have been asked to do a demonstration to show you how each of the different black ink pads stamp, and so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I've just got a few things to start out with that I'm going to share with you. I am using Versafine Onyx Black ink and Ranger Archival ink, Stays On Jet Black, Gina Kay Designs Black Onyx, and Memento Tuxedo Black. And I will go over the benefits of each ink and what they are specifically made for or good for when I stamp each one. But I've also got my Stuart Superior double stamp scrubber, which I always use to clean my stamps, and some Hero Arts Ultra Clean. So I'm just going to go ahead and spray some cleaner on my stamp cleaner and get my, I've got this little circle stamp, which is a solid stamp. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see better. So it's a solid stamp, and that's pretty much how I test inks. I like to have nice, crisp, clean, solid stamps or stamped images. So that's what I'm going to focus on. Okay, so I'm going to start out with everybody's favorite for sentiments, and that is Versafine Black Onyx ink. This is a pigment ink. It's a fast drying pigment ink, which means that when you stamp on the paper, the ink does not absorb into the paper quickly. It kind of stays on top of the paper, and that makes it good for heat embossing. So a lot of people who want to heat emboss a sentiment or a stamped image in black and don't want to use black embossing powder because it's very messy, they will use Versafine Black Onyx ink and then clear embossing powder over the top of it. So like I said, this is one of it's one of the favorites of many stampers. And I'm going to go ahead and stamp my first image using Versafine. And one of the tricks that I use when I'm stamping is that I use this Inkadinkado stamping mat. As you can see, it's like a little mouse pad, and it gives a little cushion for your stamping, and it helps you get a better stamped image. Also, when I do stamp, let me move this out of the way. When I do stamp, I leave the stamp on the paper for just a few seconds, just to give it time to absorb a little bit, and that's whether I'm using pigment or dye ink. So I'm just going to clean this stamp off, and that's how the Versafine stamped. And I will show you these up close when I do a comparison at the end. Next, we are going to use Ranger Archival. This is a permanent waterproof ink, which means it's really good for watercoloring. And I should mention that Versafine is also good for watercoloring, but you have to heat dry it first because, like I said, it doesn't dry fast. The Ranger Archival dries quickly and doesn't have to be heat dried or anything, but it is good for watercoloring. So let's go ahead and stamp our image using the Ranger Archival. And this ink will stain your stamp. It won't hurt your stamped image, but it will stain it. And I don't know if you can tell the difference between the blacks. This is more of a blue black, and this is more of a gray black, but you'll see that when I do the up-close comparison. So I'm going to clean my stamp and move on to the next ink, which is Stays On. And Stays On is a solvent ink pad. It is really good for things like transparencies and wood, and let's see what else. Anything that's not like just paper, non-porous surfaces. So it says plastic, metal, glass, ceramic, laminated paper, coated paper, and leather. It's not recommended for fabric. It is acid free and it is fast drying. So I'm going to go ahead, and I don't use this very often because I only use it on things like transparencies or anything shiny. It smells really strong and really badly, and so that's one of the reasons why I don't use it. And plus it stains your stamps really badly, and you know, I'm not a big fan of that, but just for OCD purposes, I like my stamps to look clean. Okay, so that's a really dark black. This Stays On. So I'm cleaning my stamp, and then we'll move on to the next. Now this ink pad is new to me. I just got this a few days ago, and as you probably know if you watch my videos or read my blog, I'm a big fan of Gina Kay Designs cardstock, her pure luxury cardstock and her layering weight cardstock, and also her ink pads. She has premium dye ink pads. Now this ink pad is fast drying and it's also safe to use with Copic markers. So that's an added plus because a lot of people don't like the other ink pads that are made for Copics. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp this one and let you see this. And I just leave it on there for just a minute just to give it time to absorb a little bit. And I'm going to clean my stamp. And that's a nice dark black onyx ink. And then last, I've already smeared my ink as you can tell over here. Last we have Memento. Memento is famous for using with Copics. It is a dye ink and it dries very fast. The problem is that a lot of people get inconsistent stamping with it. There are a lot of stampers that don't care for it, and then there are some that really like it, so it just kind of depends. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp with Memento. And not surprisingly, it didn't stamp really solid. There, you can see the white through it, but I'll show you that in just a second. So let me zoom in. Well, first, these are all of the inks stamped next to each other. And then I'll zoom in and show you each one up close. Okay, so first we have Versafine Black Onyx. And as you can see, it stamps nice and crisp, but it's not as solid as some of the other ones. You can see the white through it just a little bit, like compared to the Ranger Archival. It is a good ink, like I said, but that's what it looks like up close. Here is Ranger Archival ink. This is a pretty good, it's a blue-black though, so it kind of depends on what color black you're looking for, whether you want a gray-black like this one or a blue-black like that one. So Ranger Archival stamped solid. That's a nice ink. And then Stays On is the truest black in my opinion. Like looking at it in the light, I don't know how well you can see the different shades of black, but looking at it in person in the light, this is the truest black that doesn't have like a blue or gray tint to it. And it's dark. Next is Gina Kay Designs. This happens to be my new favorite black ink pad out of all of the ink pads that I have. This is called Black Onyx, and it's stamped really cleanly, very solid. It's a nice dark ink. There's not a big blue tint, or there's not a strong blue tint to it. There's a little bit of a blue tint. It's like a grayish blue, but it's not as bad as like some of the others. And then last is Memento. And Memento is my least favorite just because it's not very solid, as you can tell up close. You can see splotches and you can see the white through the Memento. And if you look at the edges, it's not as crisp as some of the other ones. Like, see how crisp that one stamped? This one didn't stamp as crisp. So that is my review or demonstration of the different black ink pads, at least the ones that I have. Good for Copics, good for Copics. Good for like transparencies, non-porous surfaces, watercoloring, but this is pigment. So these are not pigment. Okay, so I hope that that helped, guys. I will have a link to all these different inks and the supplies used in this video in the description box, as well as some up-close photos on my blog. So if you want to see how these stamped in more detail, there will be better photos on the blog, so take a look at that. And thanks a lot, guys. I hope you have a great day. Bye.